Someone told me, or I came across this one time, is that sometimes it takes, and most of the time it takes a person an entire lifetime to be able to write one really successful book, because they have to have a lifetime of experiences to make an impact with that book. You can take that book and within 5 days learn what took somebody an entire lifetime. So, as you start to understand it, yeah, reading, can be boring at times, but when you realize the impact that it can make on your life and your family's life, you probably will take it a little more serious.
Hey, I'm Travis Brown, and I build personal brands that create company profits. For the last 20 plus years, I've invested my time connecting with people, building marketing strategies, growing companies, business coaching, and yes, after 2,500 plus paid talks, my number one passion is still walking on that stage to help people achieve things they never thought possible. And this is my podcast. Welcome to Mojo Up Live. It's Travis Brown here, and I'm super excited for today's guest. He's a personal friend of mine, a golfing buddy, but he's really an entrepreneur. He does so many cool things with his money to make it work that I'm super excited to have my friend Bobby Hatfield on the show today, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And if you can't tell, we're at a different scenery today because today we got some aircraft, we got some noise out there, and should be super interesting. So, Bobby, I'm just going to jump right in. So talk to me, before we get into all the business stuff, and you as an amazing husband and father, tell me about this fascination with flying airplanes.
Yeah, well, I first started out as a little bit of a fear, I guess. So, starting to travel a little bit more for business and, being in airports and in airplanes. For me, it was about really wanting to know what was going on when I was in the airplane, and then the time commitment to having to go to the airport, going through the security, all the things that you have to do to prep to travel and go out of town. And so that's what started my interest to becoming a pilot. And then another component to just trying to get out of your comfort zone, challenge yourself to do something that takes a lot of dedication and persistence. And so that's what started it. And I obviously have some other ideas around once I do get my pilot's license, and how that can really help me in growing my business, as far as taking it to different states, making it more national versus regional. And then, as you mentioned about family, it gives me opportunity to be a real efficient with my time, so I can get to multiple places around the country and then get back home to see my kids.
I know some people have just fear when it comes to flying, whether it's on a commercial plane, let alone on one of the little guys or the jets. I'm just interested to know, how did the fear play a role in helping you dive into this, and how do you keep that fear kind of compressed as you go?
Yeah.
And we have a big, awesome, Lear jet that's pulling in right here.
Yeah,
so, so right before that awesome jet just started coming right in right here, I was asking you about fear and how to overcome the fear of just being up there.
Yeah. Well, and for me, it was a real fear. I mean, even as a passenger, I was saying, being up in an airplane, fear comes from a place of uncertainty or being unaware of your environment, your situation. It's something that's built into our bodies back to the primitive days. Our DNA, our genes are designed to react to its environment in a certain way. And so a big part of flying for me, I was always uncomfortable being in a big commercial airplane, not knowing what was going on, how the weather affects it, who the pilots are. Half the time you don't see them. And so for me, that was a part of it. And then, of course, trying to do something that you're completely unfamiliar with and that is really unnatural, to be in the air in essentially a big steel pop can, if you will, it's just unnatural, right? Gravity plays a role in that. So it does create a lot of fear and put you in an uncomfortable position. And so knowing that, for me, I'm always trying to improve myself, grow myself, and it was a good opportunity for me to solve some of those issues that I had as a person that was a passenger in an airplane, and also then pair that with personal development, personal growth, which you know I'm about.
Well, and that's one of the things I feel like I've learned from you the most is just how committed you are to growing yourself personally, as a husband, as a father, as a business guy, and just personally. I want to talk a little about how you've challenged yourself, because you can get to a place where it's easy to be comfortable. And you've really pushed yourself, and me actually, to get a little bit uncomfortable. So you did something a while back called 75 Hard, and you did it just to get uncomfortable. So talk a little bit about that and the commitment to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you'd mentioned, it's easy to get comfortable, and I'm always learning, studying, reading books, following successful people, and for me, I'm a true student of personal development and growth. Like I really enjoy understanding why people succeed and why people fail, and a lot of that comes from my life experiences growing up. But I was searching out for an opportunity to continue to expand my comfort zone, and really this started right out of chiropractic school. I had the opportunity to have a mentor who was teaching me about growing yourself and about mentors and coaching, and how important it is to, if you're going to continue to build your business, build your personal life, and achieve the things that you want, that you've got to look outside of yourself and find a way to find some support and someone to push you. And so through that journey of understanding personal development has led me to realize that this thing we call the comfort zone is really what holds everybody back, and unless you do things to drag you out of that, then you'll likely be mediocre in all that you do.
And so we talked about this 75 Hard. I think it's fascinating to me to see people challenged in this way. But tell us what 75 Hard is.
Yeah.
Well, what was challenging about that, and what did you learn from it?
So 75 Hard, most people, when you look at the program, and at first I thought this too, and the reason that I did it was because I learned differently, but the program on the surface might look like a fitness program, and that you might get to be in just great physical shape, which is a part of the program.
Right.
But 75 Hard really is a mental toughness and dedication to create discipline program is what it is. And so it was created by Andy Frisella, who is the CEO and founder of First Form, which is a very successful nutrition company. And what he has learned, just like I have, as he's gone through his business life cycle, and from scaling a business from essentially a startup to now a very successful, I think they're doing 500 million or more annually. He's realized that how he's gotten to where he is by challenging his comfort zone and really working towards improving himself. And so he created this program, 75 Hard, and it's a series of 5 different requirements for 75 straight days. And so at first it looks like, okay, I'm going to get in great physical shape when you look at it, right? Because it's 2 workouts a day.
Wow.
For 45 minutes each. One of the workouts has to be outside.
And we're in Indiana.
Yeah, we're in Indiana.
So it's cold.
So the weather can change quickly. 45 minutes, one of them has to be outside. And the second part of the second step would be you have to drink a gallon of water every day.
Okay.
Third step would be you have to read 10 pages of a personal development book every day, and you have to read the book. You can't listen to it through audiobook. You can't, it has to be, a physical book. The fourth thing that you must do is snap a progress pic every day. And so what's interesting about the program is, on the surface, that looks like one of the easiest things to do.
Until you forget.
And what happens is most people actually fail on that one. And so what you have to do is you can't miss any of these requirements. If you miss one of them, then you have to start back over on day 1. So it's 75 straight days of not missing any of the requirements. So it's the workouts, it's the water, it's the 10 pages, it's snapping the progress pic, and I think there's one more, and I'm trying to remember.
Oh, a
exactly
diet.
what it is.
A diet with no
That's
alcohol.
a big one. Yeah, and you got to follow a nutrition program.
Yeah.
And so this program's scalable. It doesn't mean you have to be paleo or keto or follow a specific plan. You just have to follow a plan that you commit to when you start it, and then no alcohol for 75 days. And and if you fail at one of those, you start back at day one.
So when you look at now, because you did it successfully, did you do it in the first 75 or did you have any repeats?
I did. I did
Okay.
have to repeat.
And so when you look at that, what did you gain the most from that?
So the program, what you realize is it's about creating discipline and setting yourself up to understand the how important it is to create a purpose and put it over pleasure. And so what I mean by that is that you have these requirements, and you're not always going to feel good, right? The weather's not always going to be good. There's never going to be a great time of the year to start this because it's 75 days. So there's usually holidays involved. There's travel involved. I was in Las Vegas on a golf trip with 25 guys. I was in the Bahamas with a family trip. So there was a lot of opportunity to eat bad, to miss your meals, to miss your workouts, to have a cocktail or two.
I'm going to have to talk to you about how you got through that in the Bahamas eating, because that's a tough thing to navigate in itself. But you're learning the
planning.
But you said over there, you said purpose over pleasure. And I think that's something that, I'm in the process of building a company, and I've done a lot of those successful things, but understanding how tied I am to the purpose and how much that's driving. We talk about that all the time, having your brand purpose for clients. But purpose for you, in your world right now, what's purposeful for Bobby?
Yeah, it's something that I review almost every morning. And so what I do and trying to keep myself on my purpose is I spend a lot of time and work on it every day. So every morning, one of the first things I do is as soon as I get out of bed is start to write what my purpose is and address that first and foremost before I do anything, because the world can create a lot of distraction for you, with social media, with the weather and the way that it changes with, change your mood with sunlight and cold weather and just being uncomfortable. So lots of things can knock you, out of the place that you want to be in. And so I make sure that I start my day every day with addressing that. And for me, it should change for everyone, and it has for me as I've gone through life, right? My first purpose growing up was, I grew up in a small town, an auto industry town, not a lot of opportunity, and everyone told me, get as much education as you can, right? That's probably how most people in Indiana are raised, because there's a lot of blue collar manufacturing positions, farmers, and our parents always want better for us than they had for them. And so
absolutely.
So my first purpose, as a young adult, was go to college and get as much education as I can so that I can continue to try and get to a better place than where I was. And so it's constantly changing for me in business right now. Of course, it's to scale my business, to grow other avenues of business, and and to constantly be focused on that.
Let's jump back to education for a second, because you didn't just go get a normal education.
Right.
It's kind of catching the theme about Bobby Hatfield. Nothing happens normally, right?
Right.
Got to do it to the extreme and the highest level, which I have so much respect for. But chiropractic school, right?
Yeah.
Talk about being a chiropractor and how that happened, and how was that part of your world?
Yeah. So, once again, as a kid in high school or going into high school, it's like, what are we going to do when we grow up, right?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
We're all trying to figure that out, right? What's the next step for me? How do I, create a lifestyle and an opportunity where I can live better than I am now? Yeah. Or for some people, at least as good as I am now. And so, for me, it was listening to peers, coaches, and to parents. And one of the things that I had a big interest in was sports. I played all the sports, and so during that time I was around our athletic trainer, actually, and quite often, and he happened to teach an anatomy class in our high school. And I wasn't a big fan of scholastics in high school. It was all about playing sports and hanging with your buddies and girls, right? And but one thing I did enjoy for some reason was anatomy. And so he introduced me to the course, and that was something that I felt like, okay, there might be something here. And that led to an opportunity where I actually started shadowing a chiropractor my senior year of high school. Our high school had a program where 7th and 8th period you could go and do that. And so I chose chiropractic because my athletic trainer at the time said, you don't want to go into athletic training, the hours are terrible, and there's no money in it. And actually my mother at the time had been benefiting quite a bit from chiropractic care for headaches and migraines. And so I knew a little bit about it, not a lot. I knew when she went there, she typically was in bad shape. And then every time I would see her after, she felt great. I mean, I would physically see her change. And visually, her moods from the time that she would leave that office, because she felt so much better. She was struggling quite a bit with headaches and migraines. And so me seeing that thought, well, this is pretty cool. I like anatomy, I like sports. My mom is getting a ton of benefit from chiropractic. Let me go check this out.
Okay.
And so I did, and I really thought it was cool that in literally a couple minutes, the things that this chiropractor could do with his hands would
change lives.
Change people's lives, like on the spot.
Yeah.
And so that's that was my first introduction to it. And so I start there.
I'm gonna go back now because this is I think one of the things that I'm excited to hear about from you. So I asked you this question, but I'll ask again. But is talk about your philosophy to health. And as an entrepreneur and other people that are listening to this going, they're so geared to drive and get up and neglect their health, their workout, all those kind of things. And they think that helps them get more stuff done, but really your philosophy is different.
Yeah. Really it comes down to three things. And this is through experience being an entrepreneur in startups and being a business owner and growing a business. And then also from my education, with having a doctorate in chiropractic and a degree in human biology and understanding, I have a little bit of an advantage over just the, everyday business owner or entrepreneur because I do have the education and how the body works. And so that's super important because just as you need a manual on how an airplane works to be able to operate it properly, most people don't have that manual for how does your body actually work, right? You're just going through the motions and really we allow the media to kind of direct what we learn about our body. And so I break it down because a lot of people will think of health as just what you put into your body and exercise, and that's very important, but really it starts with your mind and your thoughts. And so I break it down to three things: your mind, your body, and then your business.
And so when you start talking about mind, body, business, we're talking about just trying to create this, because if we do this right, we have more energy, we have more awareness, we have more aptitude to do different things. Is that? I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's why it's so important.
Yeah, that's why it's so important. I mean, most people in business that don't focus on those things, they will spend 10, 20 years building their business, and then they are typically successful sometimes, but the people that do make it spend the next 20 years trying to buy back their health because they've suffered so long. So they might have, the big business, all the awards, and the lifestyle, but now they don't have their health because they put that on the back burner. And so for me, I understand that, and I teach that. I've certainly had short stints where one of those things will get put to the side, and every time the compounding effect of that comes back to create problems.
So I want to break those down because I think this is important, and for selfish reasons, I'm picking your brain here. So let's just take mind, body, and health, or mind, body, and business, right? So let's talk about mind.
Yeah.
What are you doing yourself, and what are you suggesting, when you mentor or help other people that they got to do with their mind?
Yeah. So, and that's really where 75 Hard, we talked a little bit about that, comes into play, because it is helping you get into the mindset of, as we mentioned, purpose over pleasure, and understanding that everything that you do is a decision or a choice. And so you got to understand that all of our behaviors are typically directed by our belief systems. So what we believe in is what we do. If I believe that it's 30 degrees outside and 30 degrees is too cold for me to work out, then now I have an excuse for why I'm not going to go and work out.
Preaching today.
But if I realize, and I hate cold weather, so that's one that touches me personally too. But if I realize that workout is really the most important, it's part of my purpose, I'm going to have more energy to lead my team today. I'm going to have more energy when I come home to see my kids tonight. Now I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I'm going, okay, now my purpose is more powerful than the pleasure of staying in the warm environment.
The mindset.
I'm going to go and get it. So people fail because they try and go at it from the reverse. They start thinking about the food, the exercise, or just the benefits of looking good,
right,
versus all the other benefits.
So that's the mind. So let's move on to the body and start talking about what has to happen with the body.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's no secret that movement is the key to staying alive, right? So I've always said that movement is, I've learned that movement is the rival of death. And so you have to really move your body in a way that you're challenging it, because when it comes to health, the breakdown is deficiency and toxicity. So with your body, it's designed to move, and so that creates better brain function. If you go out and walk for 10 or 20 minutes, it's going to stimulate your brain to where when you walk into a meeting after that, or you have to think about a decision you're going to make, you're going to operate better. And most people don't understand, and going back to kind of the manual for how the human body works, most people don't understand that because no one's taught us.
Right.
If someone doesn't teach you that, and no one talks about it, and a big reason for that is because our society is about treatment for problems more so than, hey, how do I get and stay healthy?
All right, so let's move into the business side of this, because I know you as a high-level business owner with a mindset to grow and connect with people, not only your chiropractic business, but your car wash business, and now moving into the franchise stuff. And you're always just dropping nuggets. You don't know this, but we talked behind the scenes after one of our brand blueprint meetings, like Bobby was in there dropping dimes today, like just the knowledge around your system on franchising, how to evaluate businesses. So we'll get to that, but mind, body, and business. Talk about now the business side of it.
Going from, chiropractic school to working in a chiropractic office, which at that point I'm an employee, to owning a small business, and then building a business around my small business, bringing on other professionals to work in the business, to then going into the car wash industry and real estate and construction. I've continued to grow myself and challenge myself, but really look for opportunities and create a system that would allow me to go to what I would consider that next step or that next level. And so I'm always trying to figure out, what is it that I want? What am I looking for? And at the end of the day, it's you're trying to create a better lifestyle and a better position for yourself and your family.
So one of the things that I really learned from you is how to evaluate businesses and thinking through the steps. And you have a formalized in your head kind of system. We're kind of talking about that. Yeah. But as an entrepreneur, not like all businesses aren't created equal. Right. And I think it's hard for some people to understand what's a good business and bad business. Talk a little bit about how you've evaluated it and how you've decided where to put your money, your resources, and your time.
Yeah. So for me, and you hit it on the head, not all businesses are equal in really the industry that they're in, the revenues that they generate, the profits that flow to the bottom line. There's all these opportunities for people if they're interested in business, but there's a lot of information to dig through to really figure out what fits for you. And I get this question a lot, and it's, what should I do? I want to do something in business. I want to start a business, buy a business, or I want to invest in a business. How do I go about it? And for me, I had all those same questions at one point and still do. What I've been able to create for myself and what I teach to others is, well, first you have to decide what is it that you are looking for out of a business and what kind of lifestyle are you wanting to create. So for me as a chiropractor, when I go in the office, my first goal and my first purpose in becoming a chiropractor was to get as much education as I could to try and create a better lifestyle for myself and my family. Well, I did that, became the chiropractor, I'm in the business. Now I'm realizing I'm having a good time, I'm helping a lot of people. If I have to show up somewhere and deliver a service, I like this, but I have to show up and deliver the service. So that business model was me showing up and trading my time for money. So when you're thinking about a business opportunity, you have to determine, okay, do I want to provide the service? Do I want to be the service provider? Do I want to be the business owner and hire the service provider? Do I want to be the investor and be more silent and let my money work for me? So you got to determine where you fit within the opportunity.
Because at some level, you can own a business, but if you're still trading your time for the dollar, you're just a highly paid employee because you're still trading that at some level, right?
Some level.
I mean, the goal is, I think when people think about owning a business, it's like, I want to work myself out of that.
Right.
But there's a process to do that. So you started on that process where you're still trading hours for dollars, but they're high dollars and it's a great living. Then you went, I gotta figure out something different, something a little bit more. Talk about that transition.
Yeah, because for me it was, I enjoyed it. I was making a great living, helping a lot of people, but at the end of the day, we want to have freedom, right? That's what I think we're all after, is freedom in how you think and in your mind and with your time, because time's our most valuable asset. It's the one thing that you can't buy is more time. And so that's what led me to thinking about other opportunities, whether it was going to be place an investment in a business, start a business that I wasn't actually the service provider in. And so I learned early on, fortunately, from the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he talks about, Robert Kiyosaki talks about the 4 quadrants: being self-employed, being an employee, being a business owner, and being an investor. And every person that is making some sort of income is in one of those quadrants. And the majority of the country's in the employee quadrant. And so I recognize that the true American dream is to get down into the B and I quadrants, right? So that's when I started looking for opportunities that would move me from the left side to the right side, and led me to then create a list of things that led to the car wash business.
And I know you have your complete system, and I won't have you, tell me everything in your system, but what are a couple of keys when you think about, as you evaluate businesses? Because before you got into the car wash business, which is amazing how you guys operate from the perspective is you're changing people's lives, and you just happen to do it through a car wash, which I love, or some, you got kind of a slogan like that, but I love that. But there's some key things that you look at and you go, here's what you really have to consider if you're gonna own a business or invest in one.
Yeah.
Right, so we were,
where were we?
I was asking you a couple specific things about how you evaluate a business and make some decisions on what you may or may not do.
Yeah. So for me, what as I was saying, I think that everyone needs to create a list of criteria for them to determine if it makes sense for them. Like, what's the return on the investment, right? Is it a silent investment? Are they going to be an active investor or a passive investor? Those two things make a big difference, even from a tax perspective, and how you have to report the income from the investment, and whether you can offset other gains through the tax code with passive versus active revenue or losses. So really understanding the opportunity, or the opportunities that are out there, I think are important. Do you want to, once again, work in the business at all? That's a big one. Does it have any type of real estate component? For me, whether it is land or building, those are obviously great ways to generate cash flow and long-term wealth. If you look at the most wealthy people in the world, by a percentage, the largest percent come from the real estate industry. So I think you have to really break down the different types of investments out there and create your own criteria and what I'm looking for as an investor.
And I want to talk about the car wash business model for a second, because it's extraordinary, because you've kind of put it to the test of all those things. And
Yeah.
not only did you guys build successful ones here, now you've tested them and now you're starting to franchise and create opportunities for other people. So what is that like now if, from what you're doing to create opportunities for other people to invest in your businesses?
Yeah, and so those different criteria is what actually led me to the car wash business. I had no experience in the car wash industry, was a customer of it because I've always enjoyed cars and taking care of the things that I own. But if you would have asked me 15 years ago or even 10 years ago if I was going to be in the car wash industry, that was not on my mind. Right. But because that industry matched the list of things that I was looking for from a business perspective, it makes a whole lot of sense. And so, being in healthcare, being a chiropractor, having the opportunity to invest and an opportunity in any industry, that one made sense for the reasons of the cash flow opportunity, the margins, the profit margins are really good, the opportunity to work on a business and not in it. And so one of the great things that we're doing with the franchise model is, and it's a little bit different than most franchise businesses, it's, build your business around your life, not your life around your business. And most people in business, especially early stage, end up becoming slaves to their company. And if they're not there, the company doesn't grow, it's not as profitable. And so I had that situation as a chiropractor, and I wanted to create and build something for myself first, and then if it went well, allow other people to benefit from that, which is why we decided to franchise the model.
And now, you have multiple other locations now, and you're growing that. Who's an ideal investor or a partner, if you will, for your type of business?
Yeah. So for us, it's going to be somebody who is, we've created a series of core values, really, that, of course, because it is a partnership, even, it's a franchise partnership, we're going into business together with these people. And so they really have to match up with who we are. And so the first thing we're going to look at is personal growth. That's one of our core values. Are they committed to developing themselves and being someone who has a passion for that? Another one is, all business is ruthless. It's when you get involved in business, it's like playing at the highest levels of any sport. And so for us is, how ruthless are you? And relentless is really our core value around ruthless. And what I mean by that is, when things get tough, do you give up, or do you keep going? For us, to open up our first car wash, we had to go to over 20 banks to get financed for that. Most people would give up after 2 or 3, right? 20 banks. And so in this industry, there's so many roadblocks, and in most industries, that you're going to come across that you have to be relentless. And so we're looking for tough people, similar, like-minded people to us. So there's that process of trying to figure out the individual. And then who does our system really fit after that? It's the person who is looking for a wealth generator at the end of the day, because car washes have a lot of investment benefits that most businesses don't. With, as I mentioned earlier, the building and the real estate process, you get tax benefits through depreciation. Also through the equipment side of things, there's a big incentive through depreciation on equipment. It's very predictable in its cash flow. So for me, there's different philosophies on why to get into business or why to make an investment. Some people are net worth guys. They're trying to build their net worth. Some people are cash flow guys. They want cash coming back to them that is timely and consistent, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. And so for me, I look at both of those a little different. Cash flow is so important because at the end of the day, cash flow is what drives the world, right? So that, for me, is important. Assets and net worth is important as well, because over time, you want something that's going to go up in value and appreciate. So this industry checks those boxes. Someone who would have an interest and understands that would be a perfect fit.
That's awesome. It's so cool just to hear you break that down and unpack all the different reasons why you would or you wouldn't. But here's one you didn't mention that I know your business model well enough to know that's important is what you guys do with people. You know, I think, so many people run businesses or companies and it's about the product or service and the people are then kind of just secondary. You kind of taken a different philosophy. In fact, when people have pressed you on, hey, we want a business that doesn't have people, you kind of flip the script and say, no, people is why this business is amazing. Talk a little bit about that philosophy.
Yeah, I in really reviewing this industry and lots of industries, that's one of the things that that people get hung up on and it all goes back to trying to make their life easier. And what they don't realize is that at the end of the day, in business and in life, it's all about relationships. And at the center of a relationship are two people. And what I've come to recognize is that the best and biggest businesses in the world are backed by thousands and thousands of people, right? And so although technology is great and can really help you in whatever industry you're in, at the end of the day, behind that technology is a group of people. And the bigger your business becomes, the more people that you have. And so for me, let's say I can work 70 hours a week if I'm just pushing it hard consistently without burning out, right? If I have 10 people, I can multiply that 70 hours by 10. If I have 100 people, I can multiply it by 100. If I have 1,000. Now, instead of one person, hitting the ground every day, working 70 hours, I'm really scaling my ability to make an impact. And I come from the school of, leadership is always the problem and leadership is always the solution. And so knowing that, I really take pride in developing leaders and great people, knowing that at the core of business is the leadership.
Great segue, because one of the things I also have enjoyed learning about you is how much that you are into the personal development and personal growth and look at different things. Talk a little bit about who do you learn from and where do you go to get the knowledge that you need to be a CEO, an entrepreneur, and do the things that you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, I spend a lot of time looking for those resources, as I know you do, and thank you for the book that you gave me. John Maxwell, is the godfather of leadership. Right. And so I've read a lot of his books. I've studied him. So whatever industry or whatever skill set that it is that I'm looking to improve in, then I go to find the best people that are the leaders of those categories. If you want to learn how to, and you'll agree with me here, if you want to learn how to dominate in basketball, you're probably going to want to put on some Jordan, right? Because that's just where it's at. So,
which, by the way, started with mindset.
Yeah, being relentless, right? Tim Grover wrote a book actually called Relentless. Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's trainer. Then he was Kobe Bryant's trainer. Then he was D Wade's trainer, and so he worked with these individuals, and he talks about the different personalities of what it takes to be relentless. And so I read his book. Obviously, I've studied the people that he talks about or his past clients. If it's on leadership, John Maxwell. So I'm putting the time and energy. And what's great about today's world, it's all out there, and a lot of it is free. So it's what are you investing in? I was actually just texting this morning with a guy that I mentor. He's a chiropractor. I've known him for a long time. Great guy, building a practice right now. And we were talking about sports, and I love sports. So, however, I also realize the more that I focus on sports, the more that takes me away from my true purpose and my true passion. And so I have to manage that, right? And so I was actually texting him, and I was saying, we were having a conversation about, hey, on Saturdays, instead of watching college football for 4 or 5 hours as I'm trying to help him, the things that you are asking me about, I'm going to help you with. But on Saturdays, those are the things that I'm going to research and find. Instead of I may watch the clips or 30 minutes or 20 minutes, and then for 2 hours, I'm putting the extra effort at finding the Maxwells, finding the Ed Miletts, finding the Andy Frisellas, which led me to 75 Hard. And these guys are 20 years ahead of me. And what I really enjoy about reading is that someone told me, or I came across this one time, is that sometimes it takes, and most of the time it takes a person an entire lifetime to be able to write one really successful book, because they have to have a lifetime of experiences to make an impact with that book. You can take that book and within 5 days learn what took somebody an entire lifetime. So, as you start to understand it, yeah, reading, can be boring at times, but when you realize the impact that it can make on your life and your family's life, you probably will take it a little more serious.
It's a lot of great conversation today, and I want to wrap up with kind of having this thought, because all of that stuff you talked about today, I know you want to know that it's not about money, it's not about position, it's not about that. It's so much about your family. So how do you balance your family as a father, as a husband, as a Christian man? How do you balance all of that with all the stuff we just talked about?
Yeah, well, and that early on, it was always a challenge for me, just like it is everybody, but it's one of those things that you have to learn and work at every single day. And so at the end of the day, what we're doing this for is our families, right? The people that we love, our immediate family, our friends, our relationships. And so I often remind myself of that. And early on, prior to being married, prior to having kids, it was, my whole focus was to get to a point to where when I did have a family, that I'd be able to take care of them in the way that I felt was necessary. I wanted to create a situation that was better than how I grew up. And so for me, it's dedicating the time, the energy, and realizing that that's the most important thing there is.
Before I let you off the hook, I'm going to do a quick little word association.
Sure,
I'm going to throw out a word and just kind of tell me what's on your mind. What do you think when I say it, other than it's still a little bit chilly? So, all right, let's start with let's start with golf.
Yeah. What do I think? So
just what you know.
maddening.
That's a good one word right there.
Maddening.
Sports.
Sport competitiveness.
Money.
Resources.
Success.
Success. I think of freedom.
Airplanes.
I think of time machines.
The car wash.
I think of opportunity.
The best car.
The best car? Which is it? Ooh, I'm a Ferrari guy.
Let's see, franchising.
I think of scalability.
Leadership.
What it's all about.
Family.
The most important thing in my life.
Legacy.
I think about impact for my kids.
That's awesome, man. Thanks so much for having me out to the hangar.
Yeah.
Completely new thing for us. A little chilly out here in Indiana in February, but man, I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot,
Appreciate
buddy.
the opportunity.
It's awesome.
Yep.